there's a number of studies out there that talk about how important feedback is to growth and to confidence, right? When you have more confidence, when you get regular feedback, even if the feedback is not is growth feedback, is not that you're doing a great job, but here are the things that you can do to improve, it still gives me more confidence in that I know how I'm doing, and I know already early on what I can do to be better. And that feedback does give us confidence.
Welcome to Her Unshakable Confidence with dynamic mother-daughter duo Simone and Olivia Knego, where they discuss the secrets of transformation and how to build bold confidence and unwavering resilience. From intimate conversations with inspiring guests to sharing their personal journeys of triumph and challenge, Simone and Olivia create a supportive space where every woman is encouraged to rise above her fears and love the woman in the mirror. Tune into Her Unshakable Confidence and join this special journey of connection and growth. It's like catching up with old friends who inspire you to be bravely and uniquely you.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Her Unshakable Confidence. I'm Simone Knego.
And I'm Olivia Knego.
And today we have a special guest. Olivia, want to do the honors?
I will. Penny Zenker is known as the Focusologist. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Okay. She's an international speaker and one of America's leading experts in psychology of productivity to eliminate distraction, perfectionism, and self-sabotage. She will help you and your organization own your focus and grow further and faster. By the time she was 31, Penny founded, developed, and sold her first multi-million-dollar business while living in Zurich, Switzerland. Later, at the world's fourth largest market research company, she managed business unit turnarounds. Penny also served as a Tony Robbins business coach, guiding entrepreneurs globally to double their businesses. Her book, The Productivity Zone, was an instant bestseller on Amazon, and her TEDx talk, The Energy of Thought, has over 1 million views worldwide. Her new book, The Reset Mindset, will be published in September of 2024. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me here. I'm excited.
So Olivia, that was like big reading there.
I haven't had to do a lot of reading out loud, and I've had to do a lot of reading today.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah. So, and like without having, when you just read it in your head, it doesn't really matter what the words sound like as long as you know the meanings.
Thank you, Miss Lawyer.
Yes, it's a lot.
So first of all, going to the first word she asked if she pronounced correctly, what is a focusologist?
Well, first, I'm impressed that she said it correctly, and I'm not sure why, but so many people are challenged to even say it. Now, I know it's a new word, and I kind of made it up, but we know the roots, right, of focus and ologist, because there's lots of ologists out there. But I have this feeling that the reason many people can't say it is because exactly why I created it is because we're in a focus crisis and we have a challenge focusing. So therefore saying focusologist is challenging, but you did it right, Olivia. So
right.
So
I
do
have trouble focusing though. So
don't we all? I mean, that's literally why I created this word, is to create a heightened awareness and to make it a practice, to make it a practice for me so that I'm thinking about it every day to control and direct what I would call focus, the energy of our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions towards more positive, meaningful results. And if I'm doing it for myself and my own health and well-being, right, I'm on a mission now to help that others to be able to do the same. So that's kind of where the word came from.
And do you feel like there's certain steps, or is it that you start every morning really thinking about being focused? I mean, do you have a whole process that you go through?
So yes and no.
Okay.
What I would say is my new book talks about, for me, what it means to be focused, because it's not just about attention. Many people confuse attention and focus. They're not the same. We can be very attentive, but not in line with our intention. So we might be, end up in the wrong place of not where we want to be, because we are giving a lot of attention, but to the wrong things. So I'd say, when the main thing that I do when I get up is I have a gratitude practice. And so my first thing is to focus on the state in which I start my day, the energy that I'm showing up in, because that makes all the difference into what we actually focus on and pay attention to. So I would say that is the sort of opening to my day that focuses me on, but it's focusing on the energy and not like not getting up and saying, okay, I'm going to be New York Times bestseller. And that's my focus in the morning. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So tell us more about like what you do. I mean, I know we read your bio. I mean, you're doing a lot of amazing work. So what are you passionate about in the work that you do?
I think what I can't help but do, like there's that thing where you can't stop yourself. Like if someone told you you can't do this anymore, I can't help but love to help people to optimize, to maximize things. I'll look for someone will tell me they're doing something and I'll find, wow, strategically, you could, take the same thing and you could multi-purpose and do five things out of it. I can't help but see that or see other paths or even bigger path for people as to how to get there. And so, you know, what I'm doing is I'm speaking on stages, helping people to rethink the way that they look at things, rethink how they approach their focus, and giving them new strategies to maximize their potential.
Is this way of thinking something that you've always had, or is this like a new growth?
I think it's something that has been built upon over the years. You know what I mean? I think
Hmm.
that we have our early experiences and we have a unique interpretation of that and what we learned from it, because we might have the same experience as three other people. Maybe you've got siblings, right? And they have the same experience, or they're at the same event but they experience something different, they take something different away. So I think it's been just something that has evolved and grown, and it just has built up, and further deepened and widened in that way.
Hmm.
And I know a lot of people talk about growth mindset. I've learned a lot about growth mindset, but you have a different way of talking about things, and I want to understand the difference. So and this will come to your new book later, but a reset mindset. So can you tell us more about what that is and how it differs from growth mindset and how we can put that into practice?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you asking. And I very much respect and honor the work that Carol Dweck has done around growth mindset and how the reset mindset, it's built on top of that, right? It's what I call now the next generation of the growth mindset. Is that, Carol introduced the fixed mindset, which was kind of, I don't, a thinking of, I don't have any control over things. I'm going to stick to the way I've always done it. I'm going to just kind of let things unfold the way that they do and feel like I have very little influence. And the growth mindset was about persistence and effort and knowing that you can improve by learning over time and growing and adapting, right? And being open to focus on the things that you can control and have influence on that. And so where the reset mindset builds on top of that is it's not about over time. It's more about adaptability in the moment, using real-time feedback from our situation, our circumstances, and our experience to adapt real time as we're going along. So it's a different time frame that we're talking about. We don't wait until after the project to review it and to learn and to grow. We're being more agile, right? So it's where sort of the agile method meets the growth mindset. It's the merging of those two concepts, and it's based on value. We're always circling back to and aligning with the greater good, our values, our goals, and our intentions. So in the moment, that's what helps to guide us to adapt as things are changing around us all the time. And that's our environment today, is we're changing so fast that we need to be more agile.
Can you give me an example, like of a situation where you would
Mhm.
use a reset mindset?
Um, so I'm trying to think, you mean a difference between a growth mindset and a reset mindset?
Yeah, yeah,
Because
like
there's more to unpack,
yeah, of
right?
course, yes.
So, it could be, like I said, like a project. So let's say you've got a big project that you're working on. So a growth mindset would be focused on making sure that at the end of the project, we are doing a recap and identifying what we learned so that we can go into the next project with more experience, that we can send our people out to get training where we find that they're lacking skills, right? And we're waiting until the end of that project. It might also be where we create a business plan, a 3-year business plan. And as we're going along in that business plan, we're sticking to that business plan, and then we're going to evaluate it, let's say once a year. Or uh, another example is the way that we review people in businesses, that we review them once a year, right? That whole concept of waiting until once a year is
Mm.
is so inefficient and ineffective anymore because things are always changing. So the reset mindset would have us build that into the process on, let's say, a weekly basis, like IT technology does with the Scrum process, if you're familiar with that. So they meet every day to talk about what are the obstacles that we're facing and how do we work around these. And so that's what we need to build into our projects. That's what we need to build into our one-on-ones with our people, is have more frank, better feedback conversations so that we can adapt more quickly. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. It
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think about what you just said about the yearly review. It is kind of ridiculous, really. Once a year is when you're going to give me feedback, and then I'm going to change my next year based on the feedback that you should have been giving me every week so that I could do better in the moment instead of waiting a whole year to tell me that I was doing a crappy job or that I needed to do better or that I did great. Any one of those. So,
Right. And
yeah.
and what's really sad to say is I've worked with a number of leaders over the years that even don't have time for that one-on-one to do
Hmm.
the year-end review. So, that's also a challenge, right? Is they have to be making the time to have more regular reviews. And when you do that, it's also more efficient and effective because you don't have to review the whole year and figure out, well, what actually took place this whole year. It's
It's
just,
you know what is funny? Like I think about and this is totally not related, but it's like final exams in school, right?
yeah,
I mean,
They
that's
put the whole
exactly what I think it's like.
exactly.
yeah, you put the whole year together and it's like you've already tested them on these certain pieces. Why not just continue testing on the pieces versus putting everything together and saying, "Oh, hope you don't fail because there's so much stuff in here."
I mean, I can tell you as a law student right now, I would say majority of my classes rely on one grade at the final. And it really is. They even say it's like you have no opportunities to gather feedback throughout the year. Like the final is when the professor will know if you get the information or you don't. And it's like super daunting and honestly like really dragging on your self-confidence because I have no clue how I'm doing. I'm just doing the work and I have no clue if I'm actually understanding it or doing a good job.
Well, and also you're cramming, right? So
Yes.
now you're also not really learning it effectively because you're not doing the things that you need to do to be evaluated and get that feedback in interim. So you're going to cram, you're going to learn it for the test, and then you're going to forget it. And it's
Yeah.
really not something that, I mean, for the most part, you know what I mean? And so that's just not effective. And that's the world that we live in today.
So bringing it back to the self-confidence piece, because I
Yes.
thought that was really interesting how she's like, how do you work with confidence when you don't know what's happening?
Hmm.
So how do you feel in the connection between confidence and the reset mindset?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a number of studies out there. that talk about how important feedback is to growth and to confidence, right? When you have more confidence, when you get regular feedback, even if the feedback is not it is growth feedback, is
Mhm.
not that you're doing a great job, but here are the things that you can do to improve. It still gives me more confidence in that I know how I'm doing, and I know already early on what I can do to be better. And that feedback does give us confidence. I don't have the statistics right on hand. I was just quickly looking to see if I could find something, but the studies show that people want feedback, this regular feedback, and leaders are hesitant, and parents, whoever. These are difficult conversations to share with someone that what you said hurt my feelings,
Mhm.
or the way that you approach that is not going to get us the result that we're looking for. So we sideline someone, we take the work away from them. We don't face and learn how to give appropriate feedback dynamically as we go, both positive and uh, you know, uh, I don't want to say negative, but and also growth
Yeah, I like
oriented.
how you said growth before. Yeah. Yeah.
I
And
mean,
you
I
go.
would just
Sorry.
say it makes everybody around you just more receptive to criticism, like especially like constructive criticism, because it's really hard to hear that you like have been doing something wrong or are doing something wrong, especially when you haven't been told it that many times in your life. I remember you said to me, Mom, like the first big rejection or constructive criticism that I received was when I got denied from colleges. And like that's kind of too late in life to really have built those skills.
Well, I don't know if
Yeah,
it's
and
too late, but it's still it's hard. We live in a society where you reward everything, right? So you get trophies for participation for everything. And it's such an interesting thing because we don't allow kids to quote unquote fail at a younger age. We don't have those hard conversations. I wouldn't say that I didn't, but you were as a child, I mean, you always excelled at everything. So you really didn't have to have those hard conversations. um, but I think that we do need to do that in our personal lives as well as have these constant conversations so nothing's unexpected.
and bringing it back to confidence. So parents, leaders, when we learn to receive it, right, we can also be better at
Hmm.
giving it. And so, if the issue is I don't have the confidence to deliver it in a way so that the person doesn't feel hurt or attacked, or so how do we build that confidence, and how do we build the confidence to reframe that this feedback it's not about failure, it's not about the mistakes, it's not about rejection, it's about learning and growing, and that's progress. And so that we embrace it, in that we're all looking for that bigger picture, which is to make progress.
Absolutely. So when you think about like daily, what's like one small habit that can really lead to significant positive change? I mean, I know like I do my morning affirmation. So I do it a little bit differently. I mean, I have the five things I say to myself every morning. I say it multiple times a day just to kind of go through with things, but I mean, Liv, what do you use on a daily basis? I mean, we talk about affirmations a lot in our family.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, Liv, is there something that you're using?
Daily?
Yeah.
Uh, I'm just staying organized, honestly, right now.
Okay, that's a habit. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, my biggest habit is staying organized, making sure I write everything down and like putting it all in the same place. And like that's one thing that has been it's the thing carrying me afloat right now in law school.
Well, that gives you confidence too, right? When
Yeah,
you're organized, then it gives you
I,
confidence that you know where to find things, that you can so
absolutely. I feel
and
so much better about just I don't feel lost right now, which is like a really comforting feeling to have that I can know that I've done everything and I haven't left anything behind.
so
I'm
I'd
big.
say,
Yeah.
oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, Simone, you asked me that
Yeah.
question, and I was thinking because I wanted to think of it in terms of confidence, since the
Hmm.
show is about
Yep.
confidence. And so, I already mentioned that one of the first things that I do is I have a gratitude practice. So, and that's taken different shapes and forms over the years. So, it started out as a gratitude journal that I would write down three things specifically that I was grateful for. And then I did a gratitude meditation. It's kind of like it's been growing and changing because after a while you're just doing it and
Hmm.
you're not living into it. So I try to mix it up and change it when I feel like I'm just going through the motions versus really having it affect me and feel it. Um, but one of the things, I wrote down some things, like some strategies that help to build confidence. And so maybe as opposed to something that I do every day, I'd like to share something that I do when I need some confidence and encouragement. I have a couple of things that I do. First of all, I collect and add a girl file.
Mm.
So if
Okay.
anybody sends me a note and says, uh, thank you, your book meant so much to me, and this is how it's changed my life. I keep that. I keep all of those things. I put it in a file. I also have a list every week that when I meet with a friend of mine, we kind of go through what are our wins for the week. And not just what we didn't do, right? But what are some of our wins? Because we go so quickly past them, right?
Mhm.
And so trying to really take them in, and especially because I'm that person who's like off to the next thing. So I go back to those things. Well, I'm feeling frustrated this week, like I'm not getting anything done. Okay, let me go back to my wins that I write down every day. So I do write it down every day, actually. And and that helps me to go, well, actually, I did get a lot of things accomplished, and I just maybe am frustrated because one thing didn't work out. And so it puts things in perspective for me, and then changes the intensity, which I think gives us back into that place where we can be more confident, right? Be able to access the resourcefulness that we already have inside that sometimes we talk ourselves out of.
I actually have a wall in my closet of every nice note anyone's ever given me, like starting from middle school onwards. And it's a really nice thing. I like I think like a lot of women my age, I struggle with like body confidence, and having that right in my closet like while I'm getting dressed, it's just such a nice way to start my morning.
That's awesome. I love that. I haven't heard that before. I might have to repurpose my closet to to have it there because I don't visualize them other than like I have a bunch of stuff here on a bulletin board. But that's a great idea, right? Because
Mhm.
if you look at it every day, it's a confidence builder every day.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I am pretty cool and all that.
Yeah.
You
It's
know,
really fabulous to have, honestly.
there
Yeah, I
are
thought it
people
was
that love me.
such a great idea when she was moving into her apartment, and I was like, "What are you going to do with all these?" And she's like, "I'm going to make a wall out of them." And I was
Mm.
like, "That's fantastic because we do need that reminder. I mean, we're all
Mhm.
human. We all struggle, right? And to have that, and if for me, I do I really like the practice of saying my affirmations out loud, but I do write them down as well, whatever, wins, whatever I have going on. But then I have to remind myself to go get the notebook out, right? So if you have it right in front of you, I definitely think it's really helpful and
Mhm.
probably especially live for someone your age to be able to just kind of look at that every day and say, okay, this is all the amazing things that I have going on and that I am.
Yeah, it's really nice.
So if we keep on with the confidence thing, because I think confidence means something different to each person. And I would say a lot of people kind of have a misunderstanding of confidence. Sometimes they think the loudest person in the room is the most confident person.
Mm.
I'm a big believer that that is not true.
Could
So
be
I'm just,
opposite.
yeah.
Hmm.
So I'm just curious, what does confidence mean to you?
It's a really good question. It's actually a deep, really deep question. And I would say that it is inner peace.
Yeah. I mean, I think
That
that's it. I mean, I would say that's a great answer, but that, I mean, that is it makes you think, right? When you say inner peace. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought about, when are the times when I'm confident with myself? I feel, I feel at peace with my relationships, at peace with who I am and how I show up. And, yeah, it's just that inner peace. And I think it's, something that we all are looking to achieve. Some people might call it happiness, or I think that we're all looking for that inner peace, and we live our best self when we're in that place of inner peace.
And I think a part of that too, I mean, when I look at it, is when you have that inner peace, you're not worried about what anybody else is doing. You're
Mhm.
focused on how you can be your best self, how you
Mhm.
can help other people instead of really looking at, I mean, we're such a social media society, unfortunately, good or bad, bad in a lot of
Yeah.
respects in terms of worrying about what everybody else is doing. And
Right.
I mean, live at your age. I mean, even talking about law school, worrying about what everybody else is doing instead of just focusing on yourself, having the
Hmm.
confidence to know that you are in the right place. And that's, I think, the reset mindset makes a ton of sense right there, because when you can look at that in the moment and say, wait, I am right where I need to be, I'm doing what I need to do, and I am confident in what I'm doing.
It gives us inner peace. I think the reset mindset brings us back to inner peace, reminding us of what's most important, of who we are, of what our values are, or what it is we're looking to achieve. I'd love to share a quick story. It reminded me when you said that. I remember. Do we have a minute for me
Of
to share?
course. Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
So I was moving, went through a divorce, moved my children back to the US, and my life was like, it's weird. It was in complete turmoil, but I was in the eye of the storm. There was this inner peace that I had there, because you see that most of things don't matter, right? As you get really clear on what matters in those types of moments. And I remember I was trying to figure out, what am I going to do in this move? I left a big corporate executive position, and I was doing some coaching before I left, and I was exploring different topics. And so I was speaking to some groups and doing speaking. I was doing a little coaching. I was putting my hands in a lot of different pots, and sort of what I would call planting a lot of seeds and watering them and seeing which ones grow. And I remember several people said to me, you can't do that. You can't focus. You can't do all those different things, because you're going to spread yourself too thin, and then you're not going to accomplish anything. And it got me all upset for a day. And I was like, oh my goodness, like they're right. I'm all over the place. And when I woke up the next morning, I'm like, no, I found that inner peace again. I'm like, I'm exactly where I need to be. We don't always need to be focused on one thing. If we're in an exploration phase, then that's what we should do, is explore. And so we can't listen to what other people tell us where we should be and what we should focus on. I mean, there might be some good advice in there, but we also need to listen to our own inner compass. And it was funny. I woke up and I was clear, and I was like, well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I know I'm exactly where I need to be.
I
And I
love
think
that.
that's such an important thing to really understand. And we get it a lot, right? We have other people telling us what to do all the time, right? And it's hard to sometimes take a step back and say, wait, what do I want? Where do I want to be? What do I want to be doing? And I think that's key is,
Mm.
sure, okay, we can get good advice from people sometimes, but it's really asking ourselves those questions instead of just focusing on what everybody else tells us. Except for when it's your mother. If your mother tells you
Of
to do something,
course.
you have to do it, Olivia.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, of
It's your
course.
mother telling you,
Always.
you do it. But, and I think, just back to that story real quick, is that, for me, this is the whole concept of how the reset mindset works, is that we build it one reset moment at a time.
Mm.
And so as I was moving through that process, there were lots of reset moments to evaluate, how did this feel? Did I enjoy this? Was this where I wanted to be? And each of those reset moments is a feedback loop that gives us, I liken it and talk about in my book, it's like the hot cold game.
Hmm.
Is that you're looking for something in the room, and with a couple of steps, somebody is giving you feedback as to whether you're hotter or colder. We have this inner guidance and we have the outer sort of feedback. Are people liking what we're doing? Are we getting positive feedback? So the feedback, internal and external, are used to help us to adapt and adjust along the way.
Sometimes good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, changing the topic a little bit, what is the hardest thing you have done and how were you able to accomplish it?
I mean, thinking about all the things that you've done and,
Right.
living in Switzerland and, leaving a big job and divorce. And I mean, there's a lot of things that you've had in your life. And obviously,
Yeah.
I believe every moment in time brings you to where you are, right? Like all
Mhm.
these things that you go through. But I think we all go through hard things. I mean, really, what is the hardest thing you've done? And
I don't know. I was thinking about that. And, I mean, the divorce was super hard because I believe that divorce is worse than death because somebody,
mm,
when they die, they don't typically choose to leave you, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so, so it's harder on our self-confidence to, to be in that situation if you're the one that still wanted to be in the relationship. And, so I would say that it's a toss up between that and then what followed, which was making the choice to move from Switzerland back to the US. When my children were young, I made a vow that I wasn't going to do anything at least for 1 year because I didn't want to make it as an emotional decision that we were moving because of emotional decision, because their dad was still in Switzerland. And I think that was the hardest thing was, do we move? Do we not move? Um, because I was afraid that I was taking them away from their father. But he wasn't really in their life very much, and so that's why I wanted to see, how was he going to show up? And he canceled most of the time. And so, so I made a decision to say, okay, what's best for the kids? And I think, and he was part of that decision, right? When I decided to move, I also made him part of that decision, clearly. But I had this, did I do the right thing for years, right? Of that sort of weighing on me. Did I do the right thing for them? Did I, am I, am I being a good mom, right? Isn't
Mm-hmm.
you can
oh
understand that, Olivia,
gosh,
someday maybe you'll
yeah.
understand is, the worst thing someone could say to me is that I'm not a good mom, right? That's
Mm.
like the worst insult because we're doing the best that we can.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was probably the hardest thing. But I feel like I did make the right decision. I made it also, I made some good choices in there that gave me confidence that I made the right decision. Like if he was coming to visit, I let him stay in the house. I really like put the kids first. I never
Hmm.
talked badly about him, even though I might have some bad thoughts. I kept those thoughts to myself. Um, and because it was really, really important to me that they were the center and that they felt loved and cared for no matter where we lived, and that they felt that both parents were there for them.
And I think that's amazing because I think we, as parents, we, as moms, we really, it is such a confidence thing, right? When you think about your kids and am I doing the right thing? Did I spend enough time with them? Did I make the right choice for this? And being able to put them first. I mean, Olivia jokes because like we'll go out to dinner and what do I always do? Like if you ask for a bite of my food, what do? I offer you the whole thing. And
Yeah.
she's like,
You always give me the last appetizer bite, the last bite of
Oh,
anything.
but you always want to do these things for your kids. And you do have this thing that you think about that, am I doing enough, right? And did I make
yeah,
the right choice? And there's no
yeah,
handbook. And even if there was, it wouldn't work because they're all so different.
right.
Um, but understanding that the importance of putting them first in these kinds of situations so that they have the best opportunity to thrive and feel confidence.
Yeah, and I think also the challenge in feeling confident is, like you said, just like in any other business or any other context is other people share their opinions with us, right? So like as a working mom, as a single working mom, like if I was traveling for business, I love her to death. And my mother would say, really? You're traveling? Should you go away?
Yeah.
Because her values and that time period was different than today. And maybe each mother, right, has a different personality and a different way to raise their kids and what's important. I made them feel special. I wrote little notes and I hid them around the house and they went to look for them and we would, connect over the phone or over video. And when I lived in Switzerland, it was even worse. It was a very male dominated society. And the way that they would always, you're working? Oh my goodness, you're working. Because the mothers didn't work and they set up the school system so that mothers couldn't work. So each child would come home for lunch and they came home at a different time. So like your kindergartner would come home at 11, your first grader would come home at 12, your third grader would come home at 1. Like they made it so it was impossible for you to work. And then if you put your child in in the lunch daycare, oh, you were shunned, So I was like a bad shunned mom.
Well, my sister actually lives in Switzerland, so we're very familiar with that.
Yeah.
And
There you go.
she is a physician. And so it was a struggle because fortunately her husband's parents lived in the same little town. So the kids would go there for lunch every day. But she struggled to make friends and to be accepted because she wasn't doing what was expected. And
Right.
it's such a different kind of environment and the male dominance thing there too. I completely agree. So Olivia's like,
I hope it's gotten better since I left.
No comment.
Yeah.
I heard that go dead silent.
Yeah, I know. I was like, no comment.
Okay.
So I want to revisit, I want to go back to where you are today, the book that you have coming out, and I really want to talk about that and really give the listeners kind of what, obviously we know it's reset mindset, but tell us a little bit of more information about the book.
Sure. Well, in the book, I talk about the difference between the reset mindset and the growth mindset so people can understand what it is. And I give a lot of stories and examples, whether it's parenting or business, to help understand how we recognize when it's time to reset. And I call these times to reset, these triggers, I call them reset moments. And so in the book, I talk about the reset moments that happen around us. So like, let's say you have a difficult conversation and somebody doesn't take it well when you share some feedback about how they did that thing that wasn't so good. So that's sort of the reactive, right? In the moment, you identify that reset moment. You go, okay, what am I going to do with this feedback? I see this person is upset with it. What do I do with it? And so talks about that. But then there's also ways for us to be more proactive with our reset moments. And before we have the conversation, what can we do to prepare ourselves for the conversation? What state are we going into the conversation with? Are we ready to rumble? Sure. Right? That's going to create a completely different conversation than if we're going in saying with empathy and wanting to hear what happened. Very different. What happened? Or why did this happen? Right? Then somebody feels attacked because the why questions are actually not as constructive as the what or the how questions. So the book kind of like introduces those types of things and just gives us some different strategies to understand these reset moments. And then what happens in a reset moment is we intuitively engage in what I call a reset practice. And the key thing is to make sure that we go through all 3 steps, even though they're kind of intertwined, and you might have strategies that you use that may help you go through all 3, but very often we fall short. So, and we don't do the 3 steps, which are step back, right? Step back away from the emotion or from the way we've always done things or looked at things, and then get perspective, like really see what happened, not just make a judgment on what we think we saw, but to ask other questions, and then to realign around what's the best next step. And very often we step back and we say we've gotten awareness, but then we do nothing with it. Or we don't open up further to see and get full awareness, because it's only when we get perspective that we can really turn any information that we're bringing in, that we can turn that into insights. And so we want to make sure that we're going through all three steps.
That's great. It reminds me of thinking about the word chaos, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So I think the perspective thing is such an important piece to being able to look at things differently.
Yeah, it's critical. And I think being in Switzerland, really, being in another culture, people think completely differently. I think that was key, as we talked about. It's those experiences that build on top of each other. And so that really opened me up to constantly look for new perspectives, to understand and be open to other perspectives, to other ways of looking at things.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up here, our last question is, what's the best advice your mother has ever given you?
Because I give so much good advice all the time.
Yes, you
Of
do, Mom.
course. I would like to ask my children this, to see what they would say. So I would say some of the best advice that she ever gave me was once I remember very clearly when I guess I was like 12. And, the girls were kind of gossipy, and somebody was gossiping about somebody else to me. And I was sort of relaying it to my mom. What should I say? What should I do? And she was like, listen, she's like, don't engage in this conversation, because if people are talking about them, then they're probably talking about you.
Mm.
And if you don't want people to talk about you, then don't talk about them. And, looking back, my mother never spoke badly about anyone. So, whether you want to call that do unto others, or how I've also interpreted is assume positive intent.
Yeah.
I live by that as a rule. Even with my divorce, I went very quickly with my reset mindset, having practiced this over and over again in the smaller moments, to be able to say this wasn't personal. It feels personal, and it might be how do I want to say, self-serving for him, but that doesn't mean his intention was to hurt me, right? And so I think when we think about that, like, friendships that break down or different things that happen, just to realize that the person probably didn't have malicious intent. And I think that, my mom really showed me those things by example. Like, she said that, but she lived it. And I think that's what's most important, is that she lived it, And the other thing that I remember, and I tell my kids, is you don't ask, you don't get. Like, she's the first one to ask for a discount, or, when you're like, Mom, don't ask for that, she gets it, right?
I always say the worst that someone can say is no.
Yeah.
If you don't ask, you'll never know. So,
Right.
yeah, I say that a lot as well. So, one of the things we didn't mention ahead of time is we always finish off. Well, we have a couple things left, but Olivia has this wonderful calendar called the Unf Yourself calendar. Obviously, we know what that means, and so she always reads the quote of the day from there, and it's always interesting because a lot of times it kind of goes with what we're talking about, and always interested to hear if it connects or not. So, Olivia, take it away.
Actually, this quote was kind of what I needed to hear this morning as a 1L. It's okay, you're overwhelmed. It's appropriate, not permanent.
Hmm.
And I can tell you, I spent all of today incredibly overwhelmed.
And now?
I'm still overwhelmed.
Okay.
I just know that eventually I won't be. Like,
It's-
by the time Friday hits, I'll be fine again. I need to get through, honestly, the hump of Thursday.
Yeah, it's temporary. Reset your
Yeah.
mindset.
Yeah, exactly. It's how do we let it go? How do we that's just a shift in perspective. My good friend, Dr. Tom, he always says, this too shall pass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so, if we just have that in mind, this isn't permanent, it just makes it just a little easier. It doesn't make it easy, but a little easier to get through it. I'm a believer in that.
So please tell everyone where they can find you. And so the book launches September 3rd. Oh, I love
September
it.
3rd.
It's September 3rd, The Reset Mindset. It's a beautiful cover too. I meant to tell you that. I
Thank you.
really love
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
I thought they did a great job on that. I was really
Yeah.
happy with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's available on September 3rd. It's in pre-order right now, and special bonuses going through the month of September. So in buying the hard copy, it's the only version that's available, but you'll get a free audio and a free Kindle with it. So you'll get all versions together with it, plus access to my learning center where there's supplemental lessons that go with the book, as well as some other bonuses of other authors and thought leaders that are bringing some goodies to the table, so that it makes it that much more interesting to get the book. And it's only for the month of September that all of that will be available, because I'm going big. I have a goal to sell 10 to 15,000 copies. So
I love that.
that's how one gets on the New York Times bestseller list. So it's not a guarantee, but set big goals and make you think differently. And it's good for, like I said, it's parenting, it's teachers. I have a teacher's guide because I've spoken to a number of teacher groups, and it's great for leaders in business and something to align your whole team around, to have a common language and a common way of approaching challenges and being more creative. So for groups, for individuals, get your copy now.
I can't wait to read it. And so best way for people to get in contact with you?
So that can be found at theresetmindset.net.
Okay.
They can connect with me on LinkedIn, any of the social channels. And I've been doing a lot of content videos and things like that. So they can go check out some of the content that's being posted. And my website for speaking is pennyskeynote.com.
Perfect. We will have everything in the show notes so people can check everything out. And I can't wait to read the book.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a really fun conversation, and we will see everyone next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to her Unshakable Confidence with Simone and Olivia Knego. We hope this episode has made your day just a little bit brighter and given you the inspiration you need to confidently go about your week. Always remember to be authentically you. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. And feel free to connect with them on Instagram at Simone Knego and at Olivia Knego. Till next time.